The late afternoon sun cast long shadows across Oak Ridge Boulevard, painting the suburban landscape in amber hues. Officer James Holloway drummed his fingers against the steering wheel of his patrol car, his eyes scanning the quiet street with the practiced vigilance of a 10-year veteran. The radio crackled intermittently, a background noise he'd long since tuned out. A sleek silver hybrid caught his attention as it approached the intersection. The vehicle was immaculate, clearly well-maintained, moving with precision through the late afternoon traffic. James watched as the driver signaled cleanly, came to a perfect stop, and waited for the light to change. Everything about the approach seemed textbook perfect. When the light turned green, the car moved forward with deliberate care. Yet something about the driver caught James' attention. As the vehicle drew closer, he noticed the driver, a woman with an intricate facial tattoo that swept from her cheekbone to her temple, a delicate yet bold artistic design that seemed to tell a story of its own. James felt an immediate tension rise within him. Facial tattoos weren't something he was accustomed to, especially on a professional-looking woman driving what appeared to be an expensive vehicle. Without fully understanding why, he flipped on his patrol car's lights and pulled out behind the hybrid. The woman, Elena Rodriguez, checked her rearview mirror, her expression remaining calm and collected. She smoothly pulled to the side of the road, her movements precise and controlled. James approached the vehicle, his hand instinctively resting near his holster, a muscle memory worn of years on the force. "License and registration," he said, his voice sharp and clipped. Elena reached slowly into the glove compartment, her movements deliberate and smooth. She produced a pristine leather wallet, extracting her driver's license and vehicle registration. Her hands were steady, her nails neatly manicured, a contrast to the artistic design that adorned her face. James took the documents, his eyes repeatedly drifting to the tattoo. It was a complex design, geometric patterns, interwoven with what seemed like medical symbols, delicate lines that spoke of intention and meaning. "Do you know why I pulled you over?" he asked, his tone carrying an edge of challenge. Elena met his gaze directly. "No, officer. I was certain I was following all traffic regulations." Her voice carried a hint of an accent, something that suggested education, perhaps from a medical background. James noticed the parking permit attached to her windshield. Oak Ridge Medical Center. "You came to a rolling stop at the previous intersection," James stated, though they both knew this wasn't true. A subtle shift occurred in Elena's expression, not anger, not fear, something more like professional disappointment. She knew exactly what was happening, and her composure never wavered. James ran her information through the system. Everything checked out perfectly. Dr. Elena Rodriguez, neurological researcher, clean driving record, no outstanding warrants. Yet he found himself searching for something, anything, that might justify the stop. "Step out of the vehicle," he commanded, his voice leaving no room for negotiation. Elena's eyebrow arched slightly. The tattoo seemed to move with her facial expression, a living piece of art that reflected her emotions. She understood the dynamics at play, a professional woman of color being unnecessarily challenged by law enforcement. The next few minutes would prove to be a turning point, not just for James and Elena, but for the entire Oak Ridge Police Department. What seemed like a routine traffic stop was about to unravel into something far more complex, a moment that would challenge perceptions, expose hidden biases, and set in motion a series of events that would change multiple lives forever. The complaint landed on Police Commissioner Michael Race's desk like a thunderbolt. Elena Rodriguez had filed a meticulously documented report, each word carefully chosen, each detail precisely cataloged. Her professional background was evident in the methodical way she had captured the incident. Timestamps, exact location, officer badge number, and a comprehensive account of what she perceived as an unwarranted and discriminatory traffic stop. Michael leaned back in his leather chair, removing his reading glasses as he processed the report. His office overlooked the Oak Ridge Police Department's central hub, a panoramic view of the institution he'd worked years to reform. The complaint against Officer James Holloway wasn't just another piece of paperwork. It was a potential inflection point. In the adjoining conference room, Internal Affairs had already begun their preliminary investigation. Senior investigator Karen Thompson spread the documents across the large oak table, her experienced eyes catching every nuanced detail. James Holloway's service record was impressive. 10 years on the force, multiple commendations, no previous formal complaints. Yet something about this incident felt different. "Pull me Officer Holloway's body cam footage," Karen instructed her assistant. The young officer nodded, fingers flying across the keyboard. Meanwhile, Alina returned to Oak Ridge Medical Center, her mind processing the earlier encounter. The neurology wing was a testament to her professional excellence, state-of-the-art equipment, walls adorned with research publications, and a team that respected her groundbreaking work in neurological rehabilitation. Dr. Marcus Williams, her closest colleague, noticed her subdued mood during their afternoon research review. "Everything all right?" he asked, genuine concern etching his features. Alina hesitated, then decided to share. She described the traffic stop with clinical precision. No emotional embellishment, just a straightforward account of the events. Marcus listened intently, his medical background giving him a nuanced understanding of systemic challenges. "You're filing a formal complaint?" he asked. "Professional misconduct requires professional response," Alina replied, her voice calm but resolute. Back at the police department, James Holloway sat in a stark interview room. The Internal Affairs investigation was thorough. His body camera footage played on a large screen, each moment dissected with surgical precision. Karen Thompson's questioning was direct. "Why did you stop Dr. Rodriguez?" James shifted uncomfortably. The question exposed the thin line between his perceived justification and raw prejudice. "She seemed suspicious," he mumbled, a response that hung in the air like a damning indictment. "Suspicious?" Karen repeated, her tone a mixture of professional detachment and underlying challenge. "Driving a clean vehicle, following traffic regulations, with a medical center parking permit." The body cam footage told a story James couldn't easily explain away. His prolonged stop, the unnecessary request for her to step out of the vehicle, the repeated glances at her facial tattoo. Each moment became evidence of potential systemic bias. In the medical center, Alina was preparing for a critical research presentation. Her work focused on neurological rehabilitation for patients with traumatic brain injuries, a field that required precision, empathy, and an ability to see beyond surface appearances. Michael Reyes understood the broader implications. This wasn't just about one traffic stop. It was about the department's culture, its ability to evolve, to recognize and address unconscious biases. His own background, a legal consultant turned police commissioner, gave him a unique perspective. He pulled out a file, reviewing James Holloway's complete history. Decorated officer, community service awards, but also subtle patterns that now demanded closer examination. Slightly higher number of stops involving individuals from minority communities. Marginally longer detention times. Nothing individually damning, but collectively suggestive. The complaint against James would trigger a cascade of internal reviews. Mandatory training programs would be revisited. Unconscious bias workshops would be redesigned. What seemed like a single incident was actually a window into deeper institutional challenges. As evening fell, the city of Oak Ridge sat unaware of the professional storm brewing. A routine traffic stop had become anything but routine. Alina Rodriguez's complaint was more than a legal document. It was a catalyst for potential transformation. James Holloway's career hung in a delicate balance. Michael Reyes prepared for complex conversations, and Alina Rodriguez continued her critical medical research, her facial tattoo, a symbol of personal expression and professional excellence, a quiet reminder of the complexity of human experience. The next few weeks would test the limits of institutional accountability, personal growth, and the delicate balance between law enforcement and community trust. The Oak Ridge Civic Center buzzed with energy during the annual Law Enforcement and Medical Research Symposium. Healthcare professionals and police administrators mingled, a rare convergence of two worlds that rarely intersected so intimately. Michael Reyes moved through the crowd with practiced ease, his tailored navy suit a testament to his transition from legal consultant to police commissioner. Elena Rodriguez was presenting her latest research on neurological rehabilitation, a groundbreaking approach that caught Michael's attention from the moment she began speaking. Her presentation detailed innovative techniques for helping patients recover from traumatic brain injuries, using a combination of technological interventions and personalized therapeutic approaches. As she spoke, Michael recognized something familiar in her presentation style: precise, methodical, unapologetically intelligent. He remembered his own days as a legal consultant, how he'd fought to be taken seriously in spaces that often marginalize voices like his. During the networking break, they found themselves standing near the coffee station. Michael initiated the conversation, his approach professional yet warm. "Dr. Rodriguez," he began, "your research on neuroplasticity is remarkable." Elena turned, surprise flickering across her face. The facial tattoo, an intricate design that seemed to tell a story of its own, caught the light. "Commissioner Reyes," she responded, recognizing him from department publications. What began as a professional courtesy quickly transformed into a substantive conversation. Michael's background as a legal consultant who specialized in police reform made him uniquely positioned to understand the complexities of institutional change. Elena's research provided empirical insights into human adaptability, a concept that resonated deeply with his own professional journey. Neither mentioned the recent incident with Officer James Holloway. Not yet. Across the room, James sat at a mandatory continuing education seminar, his professional future hanging in a delicate balance. The internal investigation continued, each day bringing new challenges. He was currently assigned to administrative duties, a professional purgatory that allowed the department to keep him at arm's length while conducting their review. Michael's path to becoming police commissioner was anything but traditional. A first-generation American, his parents had immigrated from Mexico, instilling in him a profound respect for institutional integrity and personal excellence. His legal consultancy had specialized in police reform, bringing data-driven approaches to addressing systemic challenges within law enforcement. When the opportunity to become police commissioner arose, Michael saw it as more than a career move. It was a chance to create meaningful change from within an institution that desperately needed transformation. Elena's research intersected with this vision in unexpected ways. Her work on neurological rehabilitation wasn't just medical, it was a profound study of human potential for change, for growth, for overcoming seemingly insurmountable challenges. As their conversation continued, Michael subtly probed. "Your approach to rehabilitation," he said, "it's almost philosophical. You're not just treating injuries. You're helping people rewrite their own narratives." Elena smiled, a rare moment of vulnerability breaking through her professional demeanor. "Isn't that what we're all trying to do? Rewrite our narratives." The unspoken reference to the recent traffic stop hung between them, a silent acknowledgement of the complex dynamics of perception, power, and potential transformation. Later that evening, Michael returned home to find his wife preparing dinner. Elena Rodriguez's complaint file sat prominently on his home office desk, a reminder of the delicate balance between professional responsibility and personal integrity. His wife, Maria, a civil rights attorney, understood these complexities intimately. "Another interesting day?" she asked, knowing full well the weight of his position. Michael shared details of the symposium, carefully avoiding direct mention of the ongoing investigation. But Maria knew him too well. "The Rodriguez case," she prompted. "Complex," Michael responded, "more than just a simple traffic stop." The Rodriguez-Holloway incident was becoming a microcosm of larger institutional challenges. It wasn't just about one officer, one doctor, one traffic stop. It was about systemic perceptions, unconscious biases, and the potential for genuine human transformation. As night fell over Oak Ridge, the lines between professional worlds began to blur. James Holloway's future remained uncertain. Elena Rodriguez continued her groundbreaking research, and Michael Reyes stood at the intersection of institutional change and personal integrity. The next chapter was about to unfold, a story of unexpected connections, professional challenges, and the profound possibility of human understanding. The mandatory professional development seminar felt like a crucible to James Holloway. What had once seemed like a routine requirement now carried the weight of his entire professional future. Dr. Camille Richards, a renowned expert in institutional psychology, led the session with a blend of academic precision and compassionate insight. Perception is not reality, she challenged the room of assembled officers. It's merely our interpretation of reality, shaped by our experiences, fears, and unconscious biases. James shifted uncomfortably in his seat. The words felt like they were directed specifically at him, though she spoke to the entire group. His notepad remained untouched, a blank canvas of potential reflection. Meanwhile, at Oak Ridge Medical Center, Elena Rodriguez was preparing for a critical research presentation. Her latest project focused on neurological rehabilitation for patients with traumatic brain injuries, a field that required extraordinary patience, empathy, and an ability to see beyond surface appearances. As part of the internal investigation, James was required to review publicly available information about Dr. Rodriguez. What began as a mandatory task slowly transformed into genuine curiosity. Her research publications revealed a remarkable story. Elena had grown up in a small town near the California-Mexico border, the daughter of immigrants who valued education above all else. She had put herself through medical school, completing her doctorate while supporting her family. Each published paper was not just an academic achievement, but a testament to resilience. The facial tattoo that had initially triggered James's suspicion now seemed different. In one of her research photos, it was clear the tattoo was more than just an artistic choice. It was a cultural expression, intricate geometric patterns that told the story of heritage and personal journey. Dr. Marcus Williams, Elena's colleague, was preparing her research materials when James arrived for a mandated interview. The medical center's research wing was a world away from James's typical patrol routes, sterile white walls lined with advanced medical equipment, researchers moving with purposeful precision. Dr. Rodriguez's work is groundbreaking, Marcus explained, seemingly uninterested in the underlying investigation. She's developing neural rehabilitation techniques that could revolutionize treatment for patients with severe brain injuries. James listened, his preconceptions slowly crumbling. The images of brain scans, the complex research methodologies, the dedication evident in every document. This was a world far more nuanced than his initial assumptions had allowed. A particularly striking research paper caught his attention. It detailed a case study of a patient who had experienced a traumatic brain injury, documenting an extraordinary recovery process. The patient had been told he would never walk again. Through Elena's innovative approach, he not only walked, but returned to his professional career. How does she do this? James found himself asking. Marcus smiled, recognizing the genuine curiosity behind the question. By seeing potential where others see limitation. By understanding that human beings are capable of extraordinary transformation. The words echoed Dr. Richards' earlier seminar message about perception and reality. Back in the police department's administrative offices, Michael Reyes reviewed James's mandatory training reports. The investigation was evolving, not as a punitive process, but as an opportunity for institutional and personal growth. James's mandatory research into Elena's background had begun to yield unexpected results. His reports showed a deepening understanding, a willingness to challenge his own preconceived notions. It wasn't an overnight transformation, but the first tentative steps toward genuine self-reflection. In the medical center's break room, Elena reviewed her upcoming presentations. The facial tattoo, a reminder of her cultural heritage and personal journey, seemed to tell a story of its own. Each line, each geometric pattern spoke of resilience, of a journey that refused to be defined by others' perceptions. As evening fell over Oak Ridge, multiple narratives began to intertwine. James Holloway's professional world was being fundamentally challenged. Alina Rodriguez continued her groundbreaking research, and Michael Ray's watched, carefully nurturing the potential for institutional change. The traffic stop that had seemed like a moment of conflict was transforming into something more complex, a potential catalyst for understanding, for growth, for seeing beyond surface appearances. The next chapter was waiting to unfold, a story of personal revelations, professional challenges, and the extraordinary potential of human transformation. The Oak Ridge Police Department conference room felt like a pressure cooker of unspoken tensions. Michael Reyes stood at the head of the table, his posture a careful balance between authority and empathy. Senior officers, internal affairs investigators, and department heads surrounded him, each awaiting his decision on the Rodriguez-Holloway incident. "This isn't about punishment," Michael began, his voice measured. "This is about understanding and growth." Captain Robert Jenkins, a 25-year veteran, shifted uncomfortably. He represented the old guard, a generation of law enforcement that viewed challenges to their methods as personal attacks. "We can't let one incident completely upend our entire operational approach," he argued, his fingers drumming an impatient rhythm on the conference table. James Holloway sat near the back of the room, a living embodiment of the department's internal conflict. His exemplary service record now competed with a growing awareness of his own unconscious biases. Mandatory training sessions and psychological evaluations had begun to chip away at his long-held perceptions. Across town, Alina Rodriguez navigated her own professional challenges. The medical research community watched her complaint against the police department with keen interest. As a leading neurological researcher, she understood the delicate balance between challenging a system and creating meaningful change. "It's not about revenge," she explained to Dr. Marcus Williams during a private conversation. "It's about accountability, about creating space for genuine understanding." The complaint had triggered a comprehensive review of the department's traffic stop protocols. Body camera footage, statistical analyses, and internal communication patterns were being scrutinized with unprecedented depth. Karen Thompson from Internal Affairs compiled a detailed report. Her findings revealed patterns that went beyond individual bias, systemic approaches that disproportionately targeted specific communities. Each data point told a story of unconscious institutional behavior. James's mandatory counseling sessions became a journey of self-discovery. Dr. Sarah Lindholm, a police department psychological consultant, guided him through uncomfortable conversations about perception, privilege, and professional responsibility. "Tell me about the moment you decided to stop Dr. Rodriguez," she would ask, her voice neither accusatory nor judgmental. Each session peeled back layers of James's professional identity. He began to recognize the difference between legitimate law enforcement and personal prejudice, a distinction he had never clearly seen before. Michael Reyes understood the broader implications. This wasn't just about one traffic stop or one officer. It was about institutional culture, about the ability of a law enforcement organization to evolve, to learn, to grow. His own background, a child of immigrants, a legal consultant turned police commissioner, gave him a unique perspective. He saw the potential for transformation where others saw only conflict. The department's training programs underwent rapid redesign. Unconscious bias workshops were no longer passive PowerPoint presentations, but active, engaging experiences that challenged officers to examine their own perceptions. Alina continued her groundbreaking research, her facial tattoo a constant reminder of her journey. Each day in the medical center was a testament to her ability to see potential where others saw limitation. During a department-wide meeting, Michael presented a radical approach. "Our strength," he told the assembled officers, "isn't in being perfect. It's in our ability to recognize our imperfections and grow from them." James Holloway listened, feeling the weight of his past actions and the potential for a different future. The facial tattoo that had once triggered his suspicion now represented something more complex, a symbol of individual expression, of personal journey. Captain Jenkins represented the resistance. "We can't constantly second-guess every decision," he argued during a private meeting with Michael. "These officers put their lives on the line daily." Michael's response was measured. "Accountability isn't a punishment. It's a path to becoming better." As evening fell over Oak Ridge, multiple narratives continued to intertwine. The police department stood at a crossroads, a moment of potential transformation or continued resistance. James Holloway's professional identity was being rebuilt. Alina Rodriguez continued her groundbreaking research, and Michael Reyes navigated the complex terrain of institutional change. The traffic stop that had seemed like a moment of conflict was becoming a catalyst for something larger, a potential blueprint for institutional growth, for understanding, for seeing beyond surface appearances. The next chapter was waiting to unfold, a story of internal struggles, professional challenges, and the extraordinary potential of human transformation. The observation was part of his mandated professional development, a requirement that felt more like a punishment than an opportunity. James Holloway stood awkwardly at the back of the neurological rehabilitation lab, a fish out of water in this world of medical precision and human potential. Alina Rodriguez moved between patient stations with a grace that belied the complexity of her work. Her facial tattoo caught the fluorescent lights, each geometric line telling a story of resilience and purpose. James watched, initially skeptical, then increasingly captivated. The first patient was Michael Torres, a former construction worker who had suffered a catastrophic brain injury 2 years earlier. Doctors had initially told him he would never walk again, never return to his previous life. Now he was demonstrating incremental movements that seemed nothing short of miraculous. "Focus on the neural pathway," Elena instructed, her voice calm and encouraging. She used a combination of advanced technological interventions, neural stimulation equipment that looked like something from a science fiction film, and hands-on therapeutic techniques. James observed how she worked. It wasn't just medical procedure. It was a careful dance of technology, empathy, and unwavering belief in human potential. Michael Torres struggled to move his right hand. Elena adjusted a neural stimulation device, her fingers moving with practiced precision. "You're creating new pathways," she explained to the patient. "Your brain is learning to communicate differently." The patient's wife sat nearby, her eyes filled with a mixture of hope and exhaustion. James recognized that look. Had seen similar expressions during years of law enforcement work. The look of someone fighting against seemingly insurmountable odds. During a break, Dr. Marcus Williams approached James. "Surprising, isn't it?" he said, noticing James' intense focus. "What?" James responded, caught off guard. "How much resilience exists in human beings? How many stories of transformation happen every single day, right under our noses?" The comment felt like more than a casual observation. It was a gentle challenge, an invitation to see the world differently. Elena's research wasn't just about medical intervention. It was about challenging predetermined narratives. Each patient represented a story of potential, of breaking through limitations that others had defined. Another patient, a young athlete named Rachel Chen, demonstrated walking exercises. 2 years ago, she had been told her competitive sports career was over following a traumatic brain injury. Now she was rebuilding her neural pathways, challenging every medical prediction. Sometimes, Elena explained to James during a brief moment between patient sessions, "Our biggest limitations are the stories we tell ourselves, or the stories others tell about us." The unspoken reference to their earlier traffic stop hung in the air, a silent acknowledgement of perception versus reality. James watched as Elena worked with each patient. Her approach was scientific yet profoundly human. She didn't just treat medical conditions. She saw potential where others saw impossibility. The facial tattoo he had once viewed with suspicion now seemed like a symbol of her journey, intricate, meaningful, telling a story of complexity and resilience. Dr. Williams approached again, this time with a file. "Dr. Rodriguez's research has changed how we understand neural rehabilitation," he explained. She's not just treating injuries, she's rewriting understanding of human potential. James thought about his own professional journey. Law enforcement had always been about defining boundaries, about seeing the world in clear-cut categories. Elena's work existed in the nuanced spaces between those categories. As the day progressed, James's professional perspective began to shift. The rigid boundaries he had constructed throughout his career started to blur. He saw how quick judgments, the very thing that had defined his interaction with Elena, could limit human potential. By the end of the observation day, something fundamental had changed. James understood that transformation wasn't about grand gestures. It was about small, consistent choices, about seeing beyond surface appearances, about believing in potential. Michael Reyes would later review James' observation report, a document that represented more than a professional requirement. It was evidence of genuine personal growth, of the capacity for understanding that exists within institutional structures. Elena Rodriguez continued her work, unaware of the profound impact she was having. Her research, her approach to patient care, her very presence was a testament to the power of seeing beyond predetermined narratives. The traffic stop that had seemed like a moment of conflict was transforming into a catalyst for something much larger, a journey of mutual understanding, of challenging perceptions, of recognizing the extraordinary potential that exists when we choose to see each other's humanity. The next chapter was waiting to unfold, a story of turning points, of professional challenges, and the remarkable capacity for human transformation. The community center buzzed with an unusual energy. What had begun as a mandatory departmental initiative was transforming into something far more profound. Michael Reyes stood at the front of the room, alongside Elena Rodriguez and James Holloway, an unlikely trio representing the potential for institutional change. The restorative justice program was Michael's brainchild, born from years of legal consulting and a deep understanding of systemic challenges. Unlike traditional disciplinary approaches, this initiative sought to create genuine dialogue, understanding, and mutual growth. James Holloway sat visibly uncomfortable, his police uniform a stark contrast to the casual community setting. His journey over the past months had been nothing short of transformative. The mandatory observations, counseling sessions, and deep personal reflection had fundamentally challenged his previous worldview. Elena Rodriguez approached the microphone, her facial tattoo catching the light, a visual reminder of her personal journey. "This isn't about blame," she began, her voice steady and clear. "It's about understanding, about creating spaces where we can truly see each other's humanity." The room, filled with community members, police officers, and local leaders, listened intently. Some were skeptical, others held a fragile hope for meaningful change. Captain Robert Jenkins, representing the department's traditional leadership, watched from the side. His presence was both a concession and a challenge to the new approach. Years of law enforcement experience had taught him to be cautious of sweeping changes. Michael Reyes had meticulously designed the program. It wasn't just about James' individual incident. It was a comprehensive approach to addressing unconscious bias, improving community relations, and creating a more empathetic law enforcement culture. The first segment of the program involved personal storytelling. Community members shared experiences of interaction with law enforcement, stories of fear, misunderstanding, but also moments of genuine connection. James listened, his previous assumptions gradually dismantling. One story particularly struck him. A local small business owner described being repeatedly stopped and questioned despite doing nothing wrong. The emotional toll, the constant sense of being viewed with suspicion, it mirrored exactly what Elena had experienced during their initial encounter. Dr. Camille Richards, the psychological consultant who had been guiding James through his professional transformation, facilitated a key session. Empathy, she explained, isn't about agreement. It's about genuine listening, about recognizing another person's full humanity. Elena's research on neurological rehabilitation became an unexpected metaphor. Just as she helped patients create new neural pathways, This program sought to create new pathways of understanding within the police department and the community. The practical outcomes were tangible. The department implemented comprehensive training programs. Body camera protocols were revised. Data collection methods were redesigned to identify and address potential systemic biases. James was no longer the same officer who had made that fateful traffic stop. His mandatory journey had transformed into a genuine personal mission. He began working on community outreach programs, using his experience as a powerful tool for understanding and growth. Michael Reyes understood this was more than a single incident. It was an opportunity to reimagine institutional culture. Each small change, each moment of genuine dialogue, was a step towards meaningful transformation. During a break, Alina and James found themselves in a quiet conversation. The tension of their initial encounter had transformed into a mutual respect, a recognition of each other's professional integrity. "I never wanted to destroy your career," Alina said quietly. "I wanted to create an opportunity for understanding." James nodded, his previous defensiveness replaced by genuine humility. "I'm grateful," he responded, "for the opportunity to see things differently." The community center event was being live-streamed, a transparent approach to institutional change. Local media, initially skeptical, began to recognize the genuine nature of the initiative. Captain Jenkins approached Michael after the session. "This is risky," he said, his voice a mixture of concern and reluctant admiration. "Progress always is," Michael responded. As evening fell, the community center reflected a profound sense of possibility. The rigid boundaries between law enforcement and community were becoming more fluid. Understanding was replacing suspicion. Dialogue was replacing confrontation. James Holloway's journey from an officer trapped in his own biases to an advocate for genuine community understanding was complete. Alina Rodriguez continued her groundbreaking medical research. Michael Reyes had transformed an institutional challenge into an opportunity for systemic growth. The traffic stop that had seemed like a moment of conflict had become a catalyst for something much larger, a blueprint for institutional transformation, for seeing beyond surface appearances, for recognizing our shared humanity. The final chapter was waiting to unfold, a story of restorative justice, of professional redemption, and the extraordinary potential of human understanding. 2 years had passed since the traffic stop that had changed everything. The Oak Ridge Civic Center's conference hall was filled with law enforcement professionals, medical researchers, and community leaders, a testament to the transformative journey that had begun with a single moment of misunderstanding. James Holloway stood at the podium, no longer the same officer who had once made a snap judgment based on appearances. His uniform was crisp, but his demeanor spoke of something more profound than professional pride. He was now the department's lead instructor for community engagement and unconscious bias training. "Change isn't about perfection," he began, his voice steady. "It's about the willingness to see differently, to listen deeply, and to recognize our shared humanity." In the front row, Alina Rodriguez watched, her facial tattoo, once a source of unnecessary suspicion, now a symbol of her journey. Her latest research on neurological rehabilitation had gained national recognition, expanding the understanding of human potential for growth and transformation. Michael Reyes sat beside her, no longer just the police commissioner, but a pivotal figure in institutional reform. Their unlikely connection, born from conflict, had become a powerful narrative of understanding. The conference was more than a professional gathering. It was a celebration of transformation, of the extraordinary potential that exists when individuals and institutions choose empathy over judgment. James recounted the journey that had brought him to this moment. His mandatory observations in Alina's medical research center had been more than a punitive measure. They had been a window into a world of human resilience he had never previously understood. "We often create boundaries," he told the audience, "based on our limited perceptions. But human potential exists in the spaces between those boundaries." Alina's research presentation followed. She detailed groundbreaking work in neural rehabilitation, using technology and compassionate intervention to help patients rewrite their own narratives. Her approach mirrored the institutional transformation that had occurred within the Oak Ridge Police Department. Captain Robert Jenkins, once a staunch defender of traditional law enforcement methods, now sat as a vocal supporter of the new approach. His presence was a powerful symbol of institutional evolution. During a break, James and Elena shared a quiet moment. Their initial confrontation seemed like a distant memory replaced by a genuine mutual respect. "I never thought a traffic stop could lead to all of this," James admitted. Elena smiled, the geometric lines of her tattoo catching the light. Transformation often begins in the most unexpected moments. Michael Rees had been the architect of this change. His background as a legal consultant, his understanding of systemic challenges, and his unwavering commitment to growth had created a blueprint for institutional reform that was now being studied nationwide. The day's final panel discussion brought together community leaders, law enforcement professionals, and medical researchers. It was a conversation that would have been impossible 2 years earlier, a dialogue characterized by genuine listening, mutual respect, and a shared commitment to understanding. A video montage played, showing the journey of transformation. Footage from the initial incident contrasted with current community engagement programs. James's journey from an officer trapped in his own biases to a champion of understanding. Elena's groundbreaking medical research. The department's comprehensive reform efforts. Community members who had once felt marginalized now spoke of renewed trust. Police officers shared stories of genuine connection, of seeing beyond surface appearances. Medical researchers presented data showing the profound impact of empathy-driven approaches. As the conference concluded, it was clear that something fundamental had changed. This was more than an institutional reform. It was a testament to human potential for growth, for understanding, for transcending the limitations of our initial perceptions. James Holloway had found a new purpose. Elena Rodriguez continued to push the boundaries of medical research. Michael Rees had transformed an institutional challenge into a national model of progressive leadership. The traffic stop that had seemed like a moment of conflict had become a catalyst for something much larger, a blueprint for human understanding, for seeing beyond surface appearances, for recognizing the extraordinary potential that exists when we choose empathy over judgment. As evening fell over Oak Ridge, the conference hall stood as a symbol of possibility, a reminder that true transformation begins with a willingness to see differently, to listen deeply, and to recognize our shared humanity. The journey was complete, but the potential for growth, for understanding, remained endless.